Good afternoon, everyone. Today we will be learning about rounding whole numbers to the nearest tenth. We have briefly covered what rounding involves, but today we are going to go into more detail on this topic. So first we are going to cover the question of what exactly is rounding. Rounding means reducing the digits in a number while trying to keep its values similar. The result of doing this is less accurate, but gives us easier numbers to use. It is important to round numbers for simplicity's sake. Rounding makes numbers more friendly and much easier to work with. Friendly numbers allow people to utilize the simplest multiplication, addition, subtraction, division, or counting patterns to make calculations and estimations. Calculating the cost of 14 items at $11.75 using mental math is far more complex for most than rounding that to 14 items at $12 to get a rough estimate. There are obvious times that an exact number is necessary, but even in those instances, rounding is a good tool for checking the validity of your answer by giving you a ballpark figure. Now that we've discussed what rounding is and why it's important, we are going to move on to reviewing how to determine the ones and tens place in a number and then move on to learning the rules of rounding. In order to round whole numbers to the nearest tenth, it is necessary that we are able to identify the ones and tens place in a number. Since we have covered this topic, we are just going to do a brief review of this skill. The first digit in a number is the tens place. It tells you how many sets of 10 are in the number. For our first number, 19, the 1 in the tens place indicates that there are one set of 10 in this number. The last digit in 19, or the 9, tells us how many ones are in the number. In the case of 19, this 9 would represent 9 sets of 1 and 1 set of 10. This helps us explain why we have a ones and a tens place in each of these numbers. The other numbers follow the same pattern. In 36, the first digit represents the tens place. The second digit represents the ones place. Moving on to 45, our first digit represents the tens place, while our last digit, 5, represents the ones place. As you can see, all the numbers underlined in red represent the tens place, and the numbers underlined in blue represents the ones place. Now that we have gone over how to identify the ones and tens place, we can now move on to learning the rules of rounding. Now we are going to go over the 3 simple rules of rounding whole numbers to the nearest tenth. Our first rule is to decide which is the last digit to keep. Next, we leave this number the same if the next digit is less than 5. This is called rounding down. Or if the next digit is 5 or more, we increase it by 1. This is called rounding up. Just reading these rules may make rounding seem complicated, but we are going to do some examples that will help you further understand these rules in a much simpler way. First, we are going to work with the number 67. When rounding to the nearest tenth, our keep digit will always be the tens place. The number that will determine if we round up or down will be the ones place. For 67, our keep digit will be 6. Next, we need to look at our next digit, or 7, to determine whether we should round up or down. Since this number is more than 5, we increase our keep digit by 1, or round up, according to our rules. Since we are rounding up, we change all the digits to the right of the rounding place to zeros. So 67 becomes 70. For 52, our keep digit will be the 5. Next, we need to look at our next digit, or 2, to determine whether we should round up or down. Since this number is less than 5, we leave our keep digit the same, or round down, and change all the digits to the right of the rounding place to zeros. 52 rounded down becomes 50. For 13, our keep digit will be the 1. Next, we need to look at our next digit, or the 3, to determine whether we should round up or down. Since this number is less than 5, we keep our keep digit the same, or round down, and change all the digits to the right of the rounding place to zeros. So 13 rounded down becomes 10. Even though we have now introduced the topic of rounding whole numbers to the nearest tenth, we will still go further into detail on this topic tomorrow during class. Any questions can be answered during that time. For tomorrow's class, it is important that you fill out the worksheet that was given to you today in class about rounding numbers to the nearest tenth, because this will count as your assessment for this lesson. Following tomorrow's class, we will be starting to learn how to round whole numbers to the nearest hundredth.